Hello, everybody. Welcome to Game 2 of the three-game series, best of three series between Duban and Blues. I'm Philothanik. My understanding is Blues won the first game. Co-cast joining me is Game Slayer. Neither of us saw that first game, so we're here fresh. What do you think of this map, Game Slayer?
There's water on this map. I see water in a few places. There's water. I also see iron in a few places. Very few places, though. There is a high carbon in the bottom right-hand corner near New Seattle. Well, not quite the bottom right-hand corner, but you know what I mean. Duban's actually just going to not. He's going to go straight for the expansive with the high and the medium iron, which makes sense. We haven't actually talked about prices, but iron did start fairly high. He's going to go for a single high aluminium, high iron, high steel. There we go. He's got rid of most of the good aluminium on this map. And then Blues is going to have to take the medium on the bottom. He might end up having to take 2 tiles of aluminium, which would suck for him, but he did take the scavenger spot with the low and the high carbon. But there are underground nukes on this map.
Yes, so Duban's found is interesting. I was thinking maybe try a science in this spot. That might be a little bit better because of those nukes. You're only limited to 2 iron patches, so it's not the best. But
It would have been awkward.
It would have been awkward, but possible. Anyway, Blues is going to get the upgrade first and going to immediately take the best water in that water patch near him. However, Duban has a bunch of water next to him. Like you said, there were, 120 something odd water patches this game?
Something like... yeah, there's still a good, 120 after those 2 were taken, yeah. I am very surprised, though, that Blues decided to take the water like this, because with a medium and a high, he's going to pull in a lot of initial money, but that price is going to fall significantly, and you only need to take 1 high, really, in order to get most of this, because only just now is Duban starting to upgrade, but Duban has also just got into a low and a high, which surprised me. Look, life support is really low right now, but both players are... So both players can't really try and use this water for much, but both players are going very hard into water right now.
Yeah, Duban's going into 3 water.
What is this? It's already $5. Blues took the first 3 or 4 shipments, and there we go. Water's dead. That's 3 claims that you're gonna have to put to something else, Duban.
Duban is the first to use the underground nukes, nuking a medium or low aluminum down to trace. I'm going to assume it was low because Blues put 2 tiles out, and Blues responds by power surging Duban's steel. Duban now deciding to move into some electrolysis reactors.
Okay, so this is Duban's game plan then, as we can see. He's took the 2 good aluminiums, and then he's killing all of the rest of the aluminium. Because that last unclaimed tile, is the last tile for Blues to take. Now, I will say it was a bit of a mistake to... No, it wasn't, because that was a medium. Never mind. I was going to talk about it being a mistake if they're both lows. You wanted to go for the middle one, but you didn't. But they weren't both lows, so never mind with that. But this is a long-term strategy to pay off, which it might work out simply because Blues... His aluminium's alright right now, but he isn't making all that much money, and he's probably going to be going into power next. If Duban can reach the power market at the same time as Blues, Blues might have a lot of trouble making some money at this point.
Well, Blues is going to take that upgrade first, and Duban still needs another 18k, all in steel.
Ooh, well, yes, that power surge.
14 of that he actually has to pay. He does have about 4k cash.
It is very surprising to see electrolysis reactors come out instead of extra steel mills, because he built those after his steel mills had already got frozen out.
Yes.
And look at the net gain on the steel mills compared to the electrolysis there. And electrolysis, don't forget, electrolysis also costed him 40 steel to make. Feels like maybe you went into those a bit too early. He really wanted to use that water, I guess.
Alright, we'll see what he does about this geotherm, if he's going to move into it at HQ2, further delaying his upgrade, or if he's going to ignore it until HQ3.
Here's hoping he ignores it, honestly. He kind of really needs the HQ3 at some point. Blues at this point, his black market is off cooldown at this point. He doesn't have money to use the black market, though. This is a problem I wasn't talking about, but I hinted at. He's currently trying to get into a single farm, which isn't going to do anything for him profit-wise. He's got the 2 tiles claimed for the wind turbine. He's managing to actually get enough money to get into that second farm. Thank God for him. Glass started low. He gets frozen out, though. That is surprising me, that Duban actually went for a freeze there, because it's difficult for him to upgrade, but at the same time, I'm not too worried about that, precisely because Blues doesn't have any money, so he can't counter-freeze.
Right, so Duban is, once those steel mills are back online, he's slowly creeping back up to being able to upgrade. He only needs another 9.9, 9.6k worth of steel. The only issue for Duban right now is he is in $80,000 in debt at HQ2, Soul 2, never a fun place to be as an expansive. Instead of upgrading, he's going for that geotherm.
Okay, well, I guess because it's iron shortage, it'll see him through just fine. And he definitely does need the power. He is almost in D debt at this point. He did found at 28k debt, which very heavily surprised me on this map, considering that the founds were pretty decent. And as we can see as well, he's got 360 aluminium at this point, and aluminium's at 17. That's a bit of a problem for him for his aluminium play. Blues at this point is just going into wind turbines all over the place because he has a lot of carbon, because he didn't get nuked out of carbon. But of course, this does mean that if you do nuke the carbon, if Duban does nuke the carbon in Blues is going to have a lot of problems because he just tied up a lot of his carbon into that turbine.
Right, Blues putting an additional 2 wind turbines on that carbon. He does not have any carbon stocked up, but it is only $6, so he's making power money now. Almost 1k a second once these 2 wind turbines are up. It should be about 1k a second, I'd imagine. 900, slightly off.
Unfortunately for him, the geothermals also come up at this point, which is really lowering the price of power at this point. So these wind turbines might not really pay themselves off very well. Maybe you should get those 2 into carbon or something.
Duban has upgraded to HQ3, moving into some additional steel mills.
Congratulations.
I hope he moves into additional farms as well.
That would be a very good idea
ones
with
got frozen out.
Farms so high. He's moving into a triangle of farms. One of his farms will be up and running, the other 2 frozen for additional 50 odd seconds or so.
He was given a high iron for 5k. He'll take that just fine. He did need some more iron just to be more than breaking even at this point. But Blues was into the farm money first. The freeze went off just as he pulled up his wind turbines, which means that these 2 carbon tiles are not frozen out, which is weird because if it was an EMP, they would have been frozen out, or a circuit overload, they would have. But power surge is weird like that.
Duban misclicking a little bit, not waiting until whatever Blues was constructing actually appeared on the tiles, so Blues should be able to get to HQ4 upgrade just fine. He has 27k cash and resources, most of that cash, 24k, still earning 150 on power, even though power price is not at high at all, at 44 and dropping.
However, Duban is rapidly catching up. His farms are just now coming out of the price, but Blues has picked up an underground nuke, which is good for him partially because it raises the price, right? Like, Duban really should have nuked the carbon instead of going for this aluminium play because it has not worked out very well. Although aluminium's really high right now, I guess, but Duban is stockpiling it like crazy. But he can afford to get to HQ4 off of this aluminium play after all. So maybe not. He's managing to keep pace with Blues, but he is in that D debt compared to Blues right now.
Right. Duban keeping pace as an expansive means he's ahead of schedule. As a scavenger, you'll always want to be beating your expansive opponent into the upgrades. However, he does have 146k of debt, and with power really low, there's really no easy way to pay that off moving forward. Blues with the underground nuke on Duban's high water, bumping it down to a low.
Stuck with a bunch of lows at this point. However, both sides have a huge surplus of water at this point. There's no real need to worry about water as it stands, but he is just going to grab another pump anyway. And we're in interesting spot where both players have built glass kilns, but no one has silicon. Okay, Blues has finally placed one. He's finally placed it. It's finally built up. It's only a medium
all the way on the other side of the map. So
this water engine could be huge for him, considering he has 275 stockpiled water. It could really make up for the fact that he went into such a ridiculous amount of early water. So he could really take this. Duban doesn't want to spend too much on this because he is already in debt, doesn't want to make the problem any worse, so he lets Blues take this, and Blues is very happy to. And now Blues doesn't have to worry quite so much about that element of worry being so far away. In fact, he doesn't have to worry at all.
No, let's go look at his perspective. He has 2.5 water incoming the second. Blues mutinying the Pleasure Dome, Duban immediately mutinying it right back. This Pleasure Dome is making a decent amount of cash this early on Sol 4 with that expansive. The colony is level 7 and it looks like it added on 1 or 2 habitat modules and some glass.
I will say as well that mutiny was a net positive for Duban because he has a lot more income coming in general than Blues at this point. Both sides actually scrapping out of their glass kilns. It's very rare that you see the 20 silicon cost of glass making glass unprofitable because 2 people both went into it.
It's not the 20, I'm betting it's this 128 oxygen cost that sealed the deal. Even though it is only, what, 2.5 or 0.5 oxygen per glass, that's still a sizable amount.
I would argue that the currently 106 silicon price tells a different story. But,
I didn't know.
Now hitting that 30k interest cost. Ouch. He can now upgrade to HQ5 if he wants. Offworld market is looking pretty good this game. Food did start at 460, so he would make a 38k advantage on that. However, the black market is a bit powerful is a bit too powerful for him to go into that quite so easily, especially since he's already in D-Day and has no goon squads board up on his base whatsoever.
Right, so Duban is in this situation. Duban wants to finish the game quickly so his debt does not become a problem, and he has the cash to do it, which is why Blues is preemptively defending himself. Because of that, Duban decides to use all that cash for the upgrade to HQ5, beating Blues as a scavenger.
I'm not worried about that in the slightest, although I would like him to put that third steel mill down to make that triangle, because steel is quite high at this point. Duban is also now going into some silicon of his own. It is a problem when when it's become a glass colony all of a sudden for both sides to actually go into silicon, even though it's all the way across the map. But that is going to be a problem for Duban because he's actually using fuel on this, unlike Blues' water. But then again, Blues will also be using fuel because fuel is now dead in terms of price. The electrolysis reactors being fueled mostly by the oxygen price at this point.
Yes, glass is climbing. Thanks to this demand from the colony, 326. And that is a true price of glass, as neither player has a stockpile. So
I would like at this point to see a hacker array come out for Duban, but he's decided just going to solar condensers, which makes sense because he needs carbon somehow. Blues did take all of the carbon on this map, and is stockpiling it from him at this point.
Right.
Imagine what would have happened if he'd have just nuked it out early, but oh well. Duban getting sabotaged by Blues. However, the unlucky the power surge bounces to the glass and then to the other glass instead of hitting the 3 steel mills, which is perfectly fine for Duban since the steel mills were what was making the money.
Right. Although part of that high glass price is due to this really high silicon price in both players. Let's see, Duban only has a low, so he cannot keep 3 glass kilns on by himself. But Blues, putting down 2 glass kilns and a hack array, will be able to keep all his on, except that they're frozen.
Duban's also spending a lot of silicon on these solar panels at this point. I would have liked to have instead seen a second geothermal instead of the way he's moved all of his claims around at this point.
Right, the solar panel's only going to eat into his glass profits, which the single building for Duban is making -60 without any adjacency bonus.
On the bright side, none of those glass kilns are actually finished yet, so he can actually lift all those back up and get the silicon refund if he wants. That would be 40k per.
Instead, he decides to rotate his second patch of 3 glass kilns into an aluminum mine, which will make 140 each, as aluminum is still crazy high, $70, and 2 farms.
It shouldn't be tied for too much longer, though. Blues does have a stockpile of 200 aluminium at this point. Blues has gone into the hacker array at this point. I don't know what he's going to do with it, but definitely better than Duban, who hasn't got anything to do with it. Duban hasn't actually paid off any of his debt right now. He's just starting to work on that with power right now, but it's not a lot. Meanwhile, Blues is actually starting to just make enough cash to potentially start making a run on Duban if he's not careful. Blues can sell out of that third stock that he owns in himself. He's actually going for an oxygen shortage, which will be hurting his own class profits, but will also be hurting Duban's.
Right, and Duban doesn't have any oxygen, consuming oxygen from his glass kilns.
The black market is
And its HQ. Now Duban's going to make a run into Blues, which is interesting at this point, because Blues
It's not going to last very long.
No, Blues can defend himself very easily.
Duban really wants this geothermal, I feel, right now. He can afford it, and it would solve a lot of his power problems right now. And, altered. Yep, there we go. He got it for 14k. Blues just letting him do it. That was a good pickup for Duban, I feel. Duban's at the point where he can actually decide if he wants to pay off, spend all of his cash right now and just pay off his debt. And that wouldn't be a terrible move. It would get him out of D debt. Blues has been failing to use the black market advantage heavily at this point because he should know that Duban doesn't have any goon squads in his stuff, but he's not been using it very effectively. He just buys a power surge right now to freeze Duban's solar panels, but Duban isn't so worried about that anymore because he's got a geothermal up at this point that he just won. And Duban does in fact go and pay down his debt at this point, which I think is a very valid move. He's got a lot more claims than Blues has right now, and if he can just survive, he should be able to get in the clear of this.
As he is also moving into a hacker array like you wanted him to do one or two souls ago. Trying to make use of that extra production that he has. The only thing about Duban right now is he's making a lot of transitions back and forth.
Steel is only $14. He can afford to do it, but just don't let those alternate prices catch you up. Like, it would be very expensive to go into glass because of the silicon price, not necessarily the steel price at this point. I will say, though, that I don't feel Duban's using his claims quite as effectively as Blues, because Blues has everything in farms. Duban's almost equaling him in farm. Oh, he is actually equaling him in farms cost right now. I did not see that triple farm transition at the top. My mistake. But he does still have those 6 claims that are all connected to each other onto the water, and those are getting hit repeatedly by Blues right now. But Blues is starting to get to the point where he can't afford to use the black market for power surges. And those 6 claims are all on water tiles, apart from the hacker array tile, which allow him to transition accordingly, which makes him very resistant to the nukes. I would have liked to have seen some nukes from Duban at this point, though, really start hammering. He was out of D debt for a very short period of time, and I'd like to see him start hammering those water tiles of Blues.
Yeah, if he wasn't in D debt, that would be great. He is paying off 500 a second, just under 500 a second of that debt, so he'll hopefully be out of it soon. He needs to get a better bond rating, 50k more before he's...
Blues managing... I'm sorry, Blues managing to surplus iron just as the shortage comes in for Duban. That's got to be upsetting. However, the auction comes in at the perfect time. If Duban notices, he should really sell down his iron right now because Blues has just managed to beat him to this.
Yeah, we'll see.
Unfortunately, he doesn't look like he's noticing.
No,
losing the pleasure dome once again. That pleasure dome's been making bank for him in this game, even with power prices high. That's a $290 thing. He's made 70k of entertainment revenue so far.
Yes, that is not insignificant amount of cash. And 70k by Soul 7 when he only put it up at Soul 4ish or so.
Yep.
Paid for itself.
And thankfully for him, he did
over.
Notice the iron pretty much as soon as the auction finished. And Blues is having real trouble with water right now. This is something Duban can really capitalize on.
Into a Offworld market somewhere.
He has, yep, he's putting it next to his hacker array. He has at this point raised the on-world prices of black market very effectively. So Blues can afford to do this. Goon Squad's only at 9k. However, this does suggest that to Duban he could potentially just go into 2 Offworlds to just beat him at the Offworld game right now if he wishes to.
Right, that would be.
Instead, he's moving into optimizations.
Each Offworld costs Blues 123k to put up versus Duban's half price 64k. So Duban can and probably should put up 2 Offworlds in response. Right now, the food price, off-world food price, $660, which means 54k profit per launch.
Oh, Duban, you just hit the D debt tick. You didn't pay off enough in time. Oh no, wait, you did pay off enough in time. Good job. Never mind. Ignore me. It was just barely on that line. Barely on that line. And a nice oxygen hack coming out for Duban here. Once this solar condenser comes online, Blues will be able to take advantage of this hack. But Duban does have more solar condensers online at this moment in time, and he did manage to get a lot of that hack done. Blues did, of course, have electrolysis reactors, but they were barely paying off the expense Blues has to pay for the scavenger HQ itself.
Duban is currently moving into a silicon shortage, which I guess makes a little bit more sense.
He did mutiny away the medium elemental quarry of Blues and is paying a ton of money in fuel at this point. Each one of these is
110. That is a ridiculous amount of fuel. That's going to make it well. He does have enough electrolysis reactors to cover it, but that is pretty much all they're doing in fuel. He's only making 0.2 a second.
Blues has kept stockpiling his fuel. He's stockpiled 304 fuel at this point, perhaps as a attempt to punish this Duban play, which he definitely is getting punished, I feel. An electrolysis, a silicon shortage sounds good in theory, but there's a lot you could be shorting that isn't oxygen. That isn't silicon at this point.
Maybe
you could
iron. That seems like a good one to me.
Steel, electronics, chems. Plenty you could be getting rid of.
Lots of things that Blues is currently not in. Power is dead again, which means Duban is once again going to struggle to pay off his debt if he chooses to.
He has the money.
He
has the money to pay off if he wants, but if he chooses to, as you said, this game is going to go a bit late. Maybe all he needs to do is pay off 5k of his debt, and then he's out of that rating problem. And he hopefully will be able to.
He did. He's now in C debt, paid off, so he's going to ride the line between C and D debt for the rest of the game. I'm anticipating.
He is he's not getting any more debt at all. He's covered completely on debt at this point.
Except for interest ticks. So he decides to nuke Blues silicon.
In response to his own getting nuked, yep. Which it makes sense, it's a glass colony. Blues doesn't have the claims to deal with this, but maybe we'll see the mule. Will we see the mule?
Perhaps this silicon shortage is working out a lot better for Duban than I would have expected. He currently sitting on a 700, almost 700 silicon stockpile.
Not gonna be good enough. The surplus comes out just in time. Blues to spied Duban's. Blues had the spy down on Duban's hack array, but Duban did not have the hacker array spied for Blues, unfortunately. Unfortunately, that did not work out quite so well for him. Those surpluses coming in just in time. Once again, Blues doing very well in that respect. Blues now has 2 offworlds up. He got an offworld up next to the colony, so that is an improved offworld. Duban needs to get a second offworld up to match this.
Yeah, this offworld is getting, what is it, 4 adjacency?
3.
Oh, just 3. Okay, yep. So that's
30% though.
That's still, yeah, 30%. So Blues with the offworld advantage, the only thing that Duban has going for him right now, other than his inherent expansive advantage, is he has way more Blues bought up than Blues has of him.
Yep, Blues is going to have a bit of a trouble with that. Duban is in D debt. Blues is probably just waiting for one more tick. Oh no, he's just going to start buying into him right now. Duban does have the slight cash advantage, and Blues is not all that expensive. He'll get more expensive when he starts buying him, though.
Yes, the only difference is Blues will be creeping up every launch cycle another 40k over Duban, who's still only operating off of 1 offworld.
However, Blues at this point is having a lot of trouble once again with water. This not nuked out. I wish this water would get nuked out, but it isn't. But he's still having a lot of trouble with water. His farms are all now turned off as he's trying to pay down this water price. But that's the real price of water. Duban has some that he's not paying right now, but that's pretty much the real price. If Duban realizes that he should be selling it at some point. No, here comes the shortage. Maybe, was that a water shortage by Duban? I don't know. I don't think it was.
I think it was. I think I saw one out of the corner of my eye.
Okay. That was a good choice by Duban then, because Blues is having a lot of trouble with water. All of his farms at this point get turned back on, though. Farms are just so profitable because of all the Offworld launches at this point. It's rare that you'll see a 1v1 get into this state, but it does happen. Blues at this point has almost bought out all of Duban. However, Duban still has that 100k cash advantage, but Blues needs 100k less to buy him.
Yeah, Blues needs 416k to buy Duban, whereas Duban needs 461k. So Duban only needs only 60k left.
Duban does have quite the significant advantage here in terms of cash at this point. He's just using those expansive claims, and he's actually got some. He's actually improving food technology right now, and he has been improving water technology, and those are actually doing very well for him at this point.
So the question is Blues, what can he do to slow down Duban? And it's looking like not very much, as that percentage is creeping up. 96, 97.
Man after my own heart, winning in D-Debt. Come on, Duban.
So it looks like Duban will tie this series. He secretly
10 seconds.
Secretly is going to be quite pleased with that Zoltar freeze halfway through that last game, because that game was not going well for him.
Well, this is what happens, you know, when you don't get Zoltar as a host, the map becomes decent.
Duban takes game 2, tying the series 1 apiece. We will be going into game 3 shortly, but first, let's take a look at this game.
It was a fairly long one.
It was a long
Sol
one.
10.
Blues
You don't normally see it goes this high. 145k on entertainment revenue for Duban, 56k though for Blues. Blues managing to use mutinies a lot on that Pleasure Dome. He was trying to raise the price of mutinies so that he himself wouldn't be ruined by them, but that kind of just bit him back in the arse there, because then he couldn't deal with Duban's off-worlds when Duban got his up. If Blues had just kept that the prices a little lower, if he hadn't been mutinying those Pleasure Domes, he could have underground nuked out Duban's off-world that was positioned on top of the aluminium tile, and then he could have really started hurting him. Without the black market advantage, and with Duban being equal to him in the level ups, Blues had a lot of problems.
Right, and Duban was able to ride that line between C and D debt a lot better than I would have anticipated when he first fell into C debt at HQ2. So, very well played by Duban in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Once again, water played a big deal. I really wish I'd seen that water get nuked for Blues, because Blues did not have nearly enough to deal with an off-world game at this point, because when you get off-worlds going, the water becomes a very key resource to fuel all the farms.
Right, Blues did purchase 182k worth of water and sold 186k, so just about even on his water usage. Some of that was from the water engine, but yeah, that just goes to show if Duban did nuke Blues water, it would have been a far quicker win for him.
Duban also making money on his farms, whereas Blues just barely scraped even on that himself. He was putting all of his farm money into the launches, whereas Duban had a lot more tiles associated with food, and then he'd used, of course, the optimization center to improve the production of each farm tile.
Yes, Blues traded the farm income for power income, making 133k in power versus Duban's. Well, okay, let's do this. Duban made 52k power. That's after purchasing 55k.
However, when you look at the aluminium, that tells a bit of a story, because Duban tried very hard to make aluminium work this game with an aluminium monopoly, and the result was that he made 8k on it.